Welcome back to Every Frame. Today I'm going to explain a 2009 comedy drama horror mystery and thriller film called The Unborn. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. Casey Belden, a young woman in her 20s, is out for her daily jog on a chilly day when she notices a glove on the road. She notices a young boy with bright blue eyes staring blankly at her from behind, one glove missing. The boy transforms into a masked dog, which Casey follows into the woods. It leads her to a pile of dried leaves, where the mask is, so she digs to see what's beneath and discovers a fragile fetus with bright blue eyes. Casey awakens and realizes that the incident was only a dream, so she seeks the advice of her best friend, Romy, who is extremely superstitious and spiritual. Dreaming of a baby, according to Romy, is a symbol of change and renewal, whereas dreaming of a dog is strange because dogs are often seen as messengers of the dead in mythology. Casey, on the other hand, doesn't seem to mind and laughs it off. During the night, she is on babysitting duty for the Newton family's young sons. She hears footsteps upstairs and someone saying on the baby monitor, "Look in the mirror, some people are doorways." Alarmed, she summons the children and heads upstairs to check on them. She notices Maddie, the older boy, holding a mirror up to his baby brother and whispering phrases to him. When Casey draws Maddie's attention and demands that he stop, he attacks her by smashing the mirror directly on her head and telling her, "Jumby wants to be born now." When Casey's parents arrive, she tells them about the incident. Gail, the mother of the kids, insists on having Casey checked up at the hospital, but she says that everything is fine. Before leaving, she sees Maddie still staring intently from upstairs, so she rushed to leave. Outside, she comes across the same glove she dreamed about, which confuses her. After a long day, she returns home and greets her father, Gordon, and say goodnight. She turns off her bathroom lights after getting ready for bed and hears noises coming from the medicine cabinet. She turns on the lights and opens it, but nothing is inside, so she dismisses it. The knocking noises from the medicine cabinet continue while Casey sleeps, as if something is on the other side. The next day, Casey prepares her breakfast, and a massive insect emerges from the egg she cracks, shocking her. As she rinses the skillet, she notices Maddie, the boy she babysat, standing still outside their kitchen window. She tells Romy, her boyfriend, Mark, and their other friend Lisa about the recurring sighting of the little boy. Mark defends the child, claiming that Maddie has no idea what he's doing, while Romy warns Casey that showing an infant a mirror is bad luck. As per myth, newborns are not supposed to see their reflection until they are a year old, implying that they will die soon. Mark is unconvinced and makes a joke about it. While in class, Casey becomes disoriented and begins seeing the phrase "Jumby wants to be born now" on the blackboard and in her notebook. She tries to concentrate and snap out of her hallucinations, but the same insect lands on her hand, causing her to leave class. She takes a shower to help clear her mind, but she can't help but notice what's going on around her. Soon after, Romy has a conversation with Casey in the locker room, but she notices that the color of her eyes is changing. Casey seeks help from a doctor, who diagnoses her with heterochromia, a condition in which one iris is a different color than the other. He says it's usually congenital. It can occur as a result of blunt trauma or as a sign of malignant melanoma. To be certain, the doctor photographs her eyes and inserts speculums to keep her eyelids open. On their way out, Casey thanks Mark for joining her and invites him to stay overnight at her house. She sees the pale blue-eyed boy from her dream again in the busy streets, but he vanishes in an instant, leaving her perplexed. That night, they cuddled in bed, discussing life, death, and the afterlife. The conversation shifts to Casey's deceased mother, Janet, whom she last saw as a child in a mental institution. She recalls seeing her mother, who also had heterochromia, in such a depressed state, as if she had given up. Casey still holds a grudge against her mother for abandoning her and her father. Casey checks her eye condition in the mirror before going to bed and hears the medicine knocking again. She checks again, but nothing is there, so she returns outside. She hears noises for the second time and returns to the medicine cabinet, where she finds the pale boy. Her screams alert Mark, who rushes into the bathroom to find her terrified. Casey removes her medicine cabinet permanently to avoid further encounters. Casey hears a commotion in the neighborhood, specifically in the Newton home. During one of her routine runs, surprisingly, she inquires of another neighbor about it, to which she responds that the baby had stopped breathing. Gail, who is distraught, reaches out to her deceased baby, who is being carried out on a cart. She also notices Maddie sitting by the window, either clueless or unaffected by the situation. When she returns to the doctor's office, the doctor inquires if she has a twin, to which she responds that she is an only child. If she did, It would explain why her eye colors vary due to genetic mosaicism. When dealing with twins, the placentas fuse and a certain amount of blood is exchanged back and forth, resulting in the different pigmentation in her iris due to a foreign genetic strand. The doctor assures her that her eyes are fine, but she should consult with a genetic counselor. Casey, troubled by her thoughts, seeks answers from her father while he is at work. She asks right away if she has a twin, to which he responds that she was supposed to have a twin brother, but he died while still in the womb due to Casey's umbilical cord suffocating him. She is taken aback by this and asks him if it was the reason their mother committed suicide, but he strongly denies her claim. Gordon informs Casey that, while the pregnancy was too early for the twins to be named, nicknames were given, with Casey's twin brother being Jumby. She bursts into tears upon hearing this and returns home to rummage through family photos. She discovers a film reel and a newspaper article about war survivors, both of which have the name Sophie Kozma highlighted. She also sees a photo of her pregnant mother looking in the mirror at herself, with the boy just behind her. Casey and Romy visit Sophie Kozma in a nursing home to learn more about her twin and her mother. They are greeted in the hallways by Sophie, who appears to be a very welcoming woman. Casey notices a spot in the wall where a mirror used to be, and Sophie says she had it removed because it bothers her. Without further ado, Sophie asks Casey if she has a twin, as she detects it in others and used to have one herself. When Casey hands the article to the elderly lady, she notices the same red bracelet she saw on her mother the day she died. Casey also asks Sophie if she knows who her mother is, but Sophie says no. Casey confirms this by showing her the photograph she retrieved from her home. When the old lady sees the boy in the picture, she becomes terrified and orders Casey and Romy to leave immediately. The two girls are perplexed by the old lady's behavior, and they discuss it in the parking lot. Romy tries to calm Casey, who convinced that Sophie is hiding something from her. She reveals that she has been seeing things and believes she is being haunted by someone who was never born since the night she babysat the Newtons. They use a projector and Mark's assistants to play the film she retrieved from her mother's belongings and examine its contents. The only strange thing they notice about the film is that it is set in the hospital where Casey's mother committed suicide. To forget all about it for a while, they decide to go to a club and party the night away. However, Casey is still unable to escape her visions and sees the boy's face among the people in the club. Still phased, she goes to the bathroom to freshen up, but ends up throwing up in the toilet where she sees a vandal of an eye. It grabs her attention, making her look through it when insects and blood pour out. She dashes outside, but the door is locked, and insects and blood begin to emerge from the bathroom sink, and fingers begin to emerge from the walls, causing complete chaos. Casey panics, and her mother appears from one of the restrooms, reaching out for her and calling her name. Her friends rush to her aid and console her until she calms down. Following the disastrous night, Casey dials Romy via video call to seek advice. She tells her best friend that she saw her mother and expresses concern about meeting the same fate as her mother. Romy, the superstitious, instructs her to place a pair of scissors with the 2 points open under her pillow, to keep evil spirits at bay. She learned this from her grandmother. Casey, desperate for some peace of mind, grabs a pair of scissors and places them under her bed, as Romy instructs. Casey sees herself floating from the ceiling, watching herself sleep, proving this ineffective. She is terrified when she notices the boy beside her in bed, opening her stomach to put himself in. She screams and comes to when she receives a phone call from Sophie, who apologizes for their recent meeting. Sophie tells her to return to the nursing home over the phone and reveals that she is Casey's grandmother. Casey walks to the nursing home, where she meets her grandmother, who reveals that the boy in the reflection is her twin brother, Barto, who died in 1944. She recalls their time as prisoners of war through a collection of photographs. The military believed that studying twins could help them solve genetic mysteries, so they conducted numerous experiments on the twins they had captured. Among the cruel experiments they conducted was the creation of blue eyes from brown through painful eye injections. The experiments caused blindness, and even worse, death, a fate that Barto met. However, Barto arose from the dead after 2 days, but she claims it was not him. A doorway had been opened, and something else had taken up residence in his boy, a dybbuk. A dead person's soul is barred from entering heaven, causing it to wander endlessly around the worlds of the living and the dead, looking for a new body. Twins are thought to be portals between worlds because they are mirrored images of each other. According to Sophie, she killed the spirit that took over her brother, but it has been trying to re-enter her life ever since. When the entity was unable to capture Casey's unborn twin, it turned its attention to Casey. The spirit has been circling Casey's life since she was born, waiting for the right moment to enter. Casey, desperate to get rid of it, asks Sophie how, and her grandmother mentions a book of mirrors, a compilation of exorcism rites, and refers Casey to a rabbi named Joseph Sendak, who could be of great assistance. When Casey obtains a copy of the book, she goes to Rabbi Sendak and asks him if he can read the Hebrew version. He explains that the book is based on the Kabbalah, a type of Jewish mysticism. Casey then informs him that she requires an exorcism to be performed on her immediately. He dismisses the subject by claiming that spirits do not exist. He also adds that what she is requesting is outside of his expertise because he has never performed an exorcism in his career. She begs the rabbi to help her because her life depends on it, but he makes no promises. Casey follows Safi's advice and keeps the protective necklace she was given, removes all mirrors from their home, and hangs chimes to indicate the presence of a spirit. Meanwhile, Romy is driving to Casey's house when she collides with Maddie, who is riding his bike. She rushes out of her car to help the boy, but to her surprise, Maddie stands up as if he hadn't been hit by a car. He then tells Romy, menacingly, he doesn't like you helping her, before warning her that if she continues to be around Casey, he will kill her. Romy arrives at Casey's house and explains what happened, noting that her eyes are getting worse by the day. Concerned, she asks Casey if she is okay and assures her that she will always be her best friend. Casey finds herself in front of her mother later that night, but she transforms into something far from natural. She realizes it is all a dream when she hears the chimes from downstairs, indicating that a spirit is nearby. Simultaneously, in the nursing home, Safi is unable to sleep after hearing wind chimes and tries unsuccessfully to turn on the lamp by her bedside. She walks downstairs with a flashlight, hearing wailing noises from a distance. She notices Eli, the paralyzed man who also lives in the nursing home. Awake in the dark hallway, she goes downstairs, not paying much attention to him, and finds Eli crawling on all fours beneath the staircase, as if possessed. His head creepily turns around his neck, and he chases her down flights of stairs. She struggles to move and finds a closet where she can hide, but the boy appears behind her, causing her to scream in terror. Casey visits the nursing home at dawn, but the large number of authorities present gives her the impression that something is wrong. As she makes her way upstairs, she comes across her grandmother, who is lifeless on the floor. Another patient hands her a letter that should be given to Casey if anything happens to her. Casey's grandmother tells her in the letter that her mother lost and succumbed to the Dybbuk. It also feeds on fear, she writes, and will isolate her from her friends and family. Meanwhile, the power goes out at the rabbi's office for unknown reasons, so he grabs a flashlight and makes his way down the stairs. He notices a growling dog with its head turned upside down at the altar. He bravely commands it to leave the area, and it vanishes in a matter of seconds. On the video call, Casey and Romy discuss how Casey should not be concerned about the spirit and how her grandmother's death may have been natural. Casey claims it isn't, and that the spirit will harm everyone she cares about, and that they will come after her when she is helpless. Despite Casey's protests, Romy hears her doorbell ring and leaves her room to check. While Romy is not in her room, she notices the boy in Romy's mirror and calls Mark, telling him to meet her at Romy's house with no explanation. When Romy checks the front door, the lights go out, and Maddie stands there saying, "The doorway is open." The little boy stabs her right after saying the phrase, forcing her to flee upstairs, while he follows her devilishly. Maddie's face transforms into something else just as Casey and Mark break a glass door, and she finds Maddie standing by Romy's body. Mark pulls the kid away as a reflex, grabs the knife from him, and is about to attack the boy when Casey stops him because the spirit has transferred to Romy's body. Before the authorities arrive, she twitches and disfigures her body. The next day, Rabbi Sendak takes Mark and Casey to a basketball court and introduces them to Coach Arthur Wyndham, who is also a priest who can assist them. The venue for the exorcism must be somewhere Casey dislikes, so she chooses the mental institution where her mother spent her final days. Other volunteers arrive who are willing to assist, as the specific exorcism requires 10 people. They are all informed about the methods and equipment that will be used during the procedure. She lies down in the center of the now sacred circle as the others recite biblical passages. Moments later, strong winds batter the entire room, and the participants begin to become possessed, before dying on the spot. Casey moves frantically and has flashbacks to the traumatic events of the previous days, all while the boy stands beside her. The entire room is trashed in the presence of the boy, so Mark decides to flee with Casey, who is in the most danger. The boy approaches Father Arthur in the midst of the chaos and decides to take over his body. The priest pursues the couple through the asylum's dim corridors, but they manage to hide in a small space. Unfortunately, the priest grabs Mark from the other side of the wall and fights him, allowing Mark to bring him down. She runs away from Mark, relieved that the spirit has transferred to his body, but he catches her and strangles her against the wall. Casey stabs Mark's neck with Safi's protective necklace, and he drops her. The rabbi arrives for rescue and continues to read rites from the book alongside Casey. As the spirit is gradually defeated, Mark's body twitches, causing him to blast back to the first floor of the building. Casey is shaken by the sight of it, and she rushes to his side as he bids his final farewell. Days have passed, and the chaos has subsided for the time being. Noticing some symptoms, Casey takes a pregnancy test and consults a doctor, learning that she is pregnant with twins and experiencing déjà vu all over again. There ends the movie.